Imagine growing up surrounded by hardship, vowing to escape a life defined by limitations. That's the fire that fuels Mayuree Aroonwaranon, an entrepreneur in Thailand who wants to essentially offer a better world to children. Welcome back to Season 8 of Womenpreneur Asia, and I'm your host Krista Gun, and today we celebrate resilience and ambition. Womenpreneur Asia empowers you by uncovering the inspiring journeys and practical strategies of Asian entrepreneurs. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Box Studio. Here's a fun fact. Because of my podcast, I was invited to share about ASEAN women in business on Malaysia's national TV recently. Just goes to show that if you're doing something good, good people will always come forward to help you spread the message. Now today we meet Mayuree, the CEO and co-founder of GEPP Sa-Ard Co Limited, a Bangkok-based company that helps companies in Thailand with waste management. Yet her story didn't begin in waste management. This French-speaking Thai national who grew up in the slum area of Bangkok has an inspiring story to share about herself, and also why she gave up a lucrative career in oil and gas to become an entrepreneur. Mayuree says she avoids interviews, but I managed to wrangle one out of her thanks to knowing her other founder, Dom Bunyarak. I met Dom when we were both participants in ASEAN Leadership Program, and I am never bashful about asking for help, and he happily recommended Mayuree. I was captivated by Mayuree's remarkable journey, and I hope you will be too. Hi Mayuree, welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hi Krista, thanks for having me around.
So Mayuree, where are you today?
I'm sitting in my office right in the city of Bangkok in the heat.
Which is the same with us in Malaysia. We are also suffering some form of heat and heat stroke, right? Humidity is really high too.
It's extremely hot here.
So that's also a good way for us to start today's conversation. We're talking about climate. We're talking about this tropical weather of ours. So Mayuree, could you tell us what you're doing right now and how you came to do it?
I am a founder of a startup company based in Bangkok, Thailand. Our company's name is GEPP Sa-Ard, which in English could be translated into Collect for a Cleaner City. And we're a tech company in terms of waste management. So we provide all kinds of tech solutions. It could be IoT hardware to software that automates most of the waste reporting for organizations. And prior to that, I was a management consultant for upstream oil and gas.
And you also had a stint in Malaysia before that.
Yes, I had the pleasure of working in Malaysia for a couple of years, but not in KL though.
Okay, so which part was that?
Oil and gas would take me. I was sent down to Kerteh, enjoying my time in Kerteh for quite some time, and enjoy the South China Sea operations.
Also, you were in Terengganu.
Yeah, learned a lot. Yeah, and I think that's what when they call it the perks of being a management consultant, traveling, but not to Kerteh. You know what I mean?
Kerteh is a sleepy town, right? Not much happening.
Except the oil and gas industry.
You probably had a good time staying there, but you were there for how long?
For almost 2 years. So I worked there, and because they have a different working calendar than the rest of Malaysia. So I would work there from Monday to Thursday, and then I would fly back to KL and work on Friday, and then fly off to home to Bangkok and then do the same thing. Sometimes I stay there to save my carbon footprint. But yeah, there's not much to do there, but it was one of the most memorable work experiences that I have. I think it was, the people are very kind, and being a woman in that area, as well as a foreign woman who doesn't speak Bahasa, was very interesting experience. I tried to order some local food, and all I got I ended up eating a lot of ayam, which is, I think, for the sake of the listeners, would be the chicken. And I remember eating a lot of kale and egg because I could not order anything else beside these three ingredients from the local hawkers.
But because you look so Asian, they expect you to speak some dialect, some Chinese, local Chinese or something, right?
Something. They expected me to, be fluent, and I said, nope. But so I got through that. It was a very good experience.
And from there, how did you come back to Thailand again?
So my last posting was in Australia, because working in oil and gas, one of the things that is required of us is mobility. So we would be sent to places where there is oil and gas. Obviously. So we need to be almost close to the whales and stuff. So my last posting was in Perth. And during the time, I was doing a dual role because there was some sort of a internal promotion of sort. And I was given an opportunity to try to be the Asia Pacific HR manager, to look after my own colleagues, but in the capacity of HR manager, while doing the consulting work for the client. I know I should not have signed up for this, but I was young and trying to
ambitious
accomplish many things. And I said, sure, let's do it. Why not? And I did not regret it because I thought it was a good experience for me to try to see from the management point of view, when we do performance review. As a consultant, when there's a performance review season, we're always like gossip about our management team, right? I mean, who doesn't? But then when you are the one sitting with them and trying to understand their point of view, why they evaluate an individual the way they do, then you start to see, actually, it's not what we understood. So after completing the assignment in Perth, I came back and I got a call from a former client in PCP, which is a national oil company in Thailand. And she said, hey, we're looking for some sort of a strategic planner for our development projects in our company. And we thought of you always wanted to come home. I was with Schlumberger for 7 years since I finished my master's degree, and I never came home. I just was sent all over the place all the time. And I only could come home like 1.5 days for the weekend. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to be home, and I was single. So, it would be great to at least have a boyfriend for a change. And so I talked to them. I went for the interview. I decided to, give it all I had, an interview with the EVP, who sat me down and he said, I just got this post, Mayuree, and said, oh, okay, congratulations. And my job is to look after, all the engineering construction projects across the globe as far as the portfolio of the company is concerned. So that means it's in Thailand and also overseas development projects, building wellhead platforms and all that sort of stuff. And we have about almost 600 engineers on the group, and said, okay, and what do you seek? I asked him, and he said, I am looking for someone who can help me think. And I said, okay. And then he's like, my vision is I want to change the culture of this group of engineers who, PTTEP is a semi-governmental organization, right? So there's a clear culture of some bureaucracy and, that sort of stuff. And then he said, I want to change whatever the culture was to be more of a performance-driven culture. And people recommend that I talk to you because you're from Schlumberger, where performance, takes precedence of most things. And then he looked at me and he said, would you like to come and try to do this with me? we're a national oil company. And I mean, if we could build this set of capabilities in a way, we're really helping the new generation of engineers to be more capable. I listened to him and I said, okay, I took a 75% pay cut. I said yes to that on the spot. I crossed the street because my office in Thailand was opposite to their headquarters. I took over the bypass bridge, went to my office, wrote a resignation letter to my boss on the same day. And I said, I think it's time for me to come home. And there is this opportunity that I think it would really open up a lot of growth opportunities for me. And to tell you the truth, I took a significant pay cut. And I hope to grow. I hope you understand what I was 32 then, So then my boss said, good luck. I give you 2 months. If you come back, just drop me a line or something. And I said, okay. So that's how I came home and worked for PTTEP for almost 3 years and something. It was a good decision.
When you took that pay cut, was it something that you had to think twice about?
No, I was single. I didn't have any responsibility. And I just thought, this is great because I could be doing something really huge. I always wanted to do something for the sake of non-for-profit kind of thing, because in my job then, all I had to do was to figure out how to increase profitability for oil and gas companies, right? Either we drill faster and safer and, doing things in a more efficient way. But then this is something that is more valuable to me. It would be so cool if, a 32-year-old woman who has no engineering degree could actually be a part of shaping the way petroleum engineers and reservoir engineers of Thai workforce to do something better. I think that would be really cool for me. It's not going to be in my resume, obviously, but at least I know. So I don't care.
I find it fascinating that the person pitched you and said that he likes your brains, essentially, right? The way you think or the thinking that you do.
I guess so. I think he knew how to pitch this position. He's a very smart man. Yeah, he's a very smart man. But yeah, the whole working experience, I'm not going to lie, it was a very difficult transition because, I was overseas all the time. I obviously had to deal with the culture shock, the Thai context, as well as the way the Thai workers deal with the problems and the whole organizational politics and all that structure and hierarchical matters. And I, consulted some professionals, and he said to me, so let me ask you this. Are you good at what you do? And I said, I think so. And he's like, so just do your job. And I said, okay, well, that's, if I did realize I was so blind. So all I did was, I just did my job. And that got me through everything. It was much clearer to have an objective. And I think coming home has one more benefit also, Krista. I always wanted to do voluntary work, but I don't know what I could do. Has that ever happened to you? You always want to help people, but you don't know how, except, I don't know, some financial donation somewhere.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest thing we can do. Yeah. And I read somewhere a long time ago that the most valuable thing you could donate and actually could change people's lives is your time. And I just always seeked that opportunity to do something with my time. And coming home allowed me to kind of think through. So on the weekend, I finally found a voluntary work, which is to teach English to kids at the slum. And I really enjoy doing that on a weekend because I thought, finally, I found something that I could do. Like, who's going to listen to me about, I don't know, well production, drilling, and, geology 101 about and gas, like who's, Excel course.
I know who. Students in university who's about to get out and want to join the oil and gas. Those people will be interested.
And
maybe that's another way.
Maybe, like I could tell them, forget about all the technical, just get to the bottom line. Like, what is this wells gonna give me in the next 3 years? Just run break even kind of thing. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I could contribute. And when I saw the announcement on the foundation's listing that they were looking for someone to teach English at the temple, I didn't hesitate. I just applied, and I did that for 2 years before COVID took place. Yeah.
And that gave you a lot of joy.
It did.
I think it's obvious.
Yeah, it was a very memorable experience because the background of the kids is they're from slum. They're underprivileged, and the level of their English proficiency is far below par. If you compare the English scores across Southeast Asia, I think we are not doing really well in English proficiency. And when I started to learn the experience with them, and then I realized how to work on my communications. As management consultant, I had to sound smart, right? But with the 5-year-old until the 11-year-olds who are in the same class, some of them want to listen to Baby Shark 5 times before we could start the class, and the other was telling me I wanted out. If you play the Baby Shark one more time, I'll let you. But I can't because my parents left me here with you. Hello. So I had a chance to simplify my communications a lot. Like, you need to understand that they don't have a whole lot of background, and this is English that we're talking about, so it's not our mother tongue. And we have different age groups, different quality of education that they have on a regular basis. So Baby Shark really saved the day. So I tried to make sure that everyone could dance to that. But, I tried to teach them things that I never had a chance to learn. One of the classes that took place was during the general election. After the coup, we had the election. And I just thought, I want to build these kids because no one is going to explain to them why voting is so important. So I had to mock up the election in the class and teach them about the words about election and voting and all that. I think that was one of the funnest classes we had. And we talk about environment, we talk about robotics. We use YouTube videos for our means of, getting to know each other. And it touched me to the point where one day, one of the girls, I think she was maybe just getting to year 1, and she drew me, basically a woman with long hair. And then she wrote my name. She's like, Teacher Ma'am, which is my nickname. And then she came and hugged me. And I said, what's happening? And she's like, nothing. I just wanted to hug you. And I said, okay, thanks. Please go and sit down now. And so, it was really fun. And I think it turned out that when you give something a bit of your time, you also learn something and you get something back, which is, to me in this case, I owe it to the kids, that I can speak human, normal language now, because otherwise no one will understand what I talk about all the time. But it was good.
And I think that when you talked about it, you kind of have this exhilaration about this whole teaching the kids, right? Because I think sometimes in our day-to-day life, when we talk to so many adults, we kind of lose that sense of what it means to talk to a kid.
Yeah.
Because a kid sees the world differently. And we adults, we think we know everything. But actually the kids see far more than the adults.
You're right. I think so. I think they don't understand that they are shaping us in a way. They just ask questions that, pop up in their heads.
And no filter, right? Sometimes
no filter. We played some games. I don't remember something. So we had voting and many, because I taught for 2 years every weekend. And one day we had a race. Oh yeah, because I asked them to write A, B, C to Z in both caps and the small ones, because I want to teach them how to write properly so that we always have a game. So that weekend I just thought, what could motivate them? I really don't understand. So I said, okay guys, whoever wins this game today, the top 3 can choose what they want. Anything. And you know what they wanted? KFC buckets. Something that I never thought I would eat myself because it's junk food and all that stuff. And they were like, I want KFC bucket, the biggest one with fries and egg tarts. Oh. And I asked, I said, is that the consensus of this class? And they were like, yes. So they were rushing because they had to do all the writings, as many as possible, all caps and small caps. When they were doing that, I had to call my husband and say, hey, can you go to grab me 3 buckets of KFC, the biggest set? And he was like, what are you doing? I thought you were teaching. I said, I am teaching. But
this is a student request.
Please go to Tesco now, get me 3 biggest sets and bring them immediately to the temple. And he's like, okay. So my husband, who was chilling out on the weekend, had to go to Tesco with us, got us 3 huge buckets of fried chicken and fries and egg tarts, brought them here, and whoever won the thing, and they were so ecstatic about this fried chicken. I swear to you, I've never seen them so excited about anything for the last 2 years. And that, and my husband was like, why do they love this fried chicken so much? And it's like, I don't know, there's something we're clearly missing. Oh, and I think one thing that I got from teaching English is that I always got a free ice cream, because there's always like the monks always bought the ice cream for the kids, and I got one too, so I think that was good. That was a good treat.
So that also reminds me, I mean, when we were talking way before we started recording, is like this also ties in with what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah, I think it's clearly that I have a soft spot for children, because I think the best way to leave this world is to teach someone to do good things, so that you can hope that they will do good things when you go away. And you're right, I founded the company right after I left PTTEP. I left them without having a job. I just woke up one day and I thought, I don't want to go back to work anymore. Maybe there's something to do with the kids at the temple. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. And when those days became more and more, I felt like, okay, I think this year is the year. And that was the year of 2018. When I submitted my resignation in January and got my bonus and left. And people were shocked to know why I would leave a job, because I am a workaholic. And they were like, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, trying to have kids? I have no idea, man. Maybe I'll just watch TV or something. And so during the time, I had nothing to do, but I still went to teach. So one day, one fact that you need to know is I cannot drive. So every time I have to commute, I walk.
Which is okay
I walk as far as I could until to the point where I got really tired and I'll just grab a motorcycle or a taxi. Someday my husband would be so kind, he would drive me to a place where I needed to be. So I had no job. That was the the month of early May. So it was around school break for the kids. And at the time, I think I wanted to go somewhere to have a coffee or something like that, kind of cool down. My job at the time, given by my family, was to take a break. And I walked through my street, and at the beginning of my street, there is this slum area that I never pay attention to because I always was in the car going in, either motorcycle or someone took me in. And, there's a huge different air when you are in the car and when you're outside of the car. So that morning I walked, and then I saw these kids running around having a good laugh. And I just watched them, and I just tried to recognize if some of them were my students. And I tried to look at them and it's like, oh, maybe out of context, maybe they don't recognize me. And so I just, never mind. So I just watched them and as I walked. And then I started to see what they were actually doing. So they were taking out some of the stuff from the pile of trash. And then I looked at it and said, this is a big pile of trash. And they took a stick out, I remember, and then took a small plastic bag that had nothing in it. And it was like tied together and make a little round air tight bag. And they started to kick it. And they were having so much fun doing this stuff. And I just looked around at that moment and they thought, man, why are they playing with the
trash?
Yeah, it's garbage. It's dirty. And why do they do that? And it kind of hit me that it's wrong for us adults not to be able to provide good hygiene for children. I believe that even if you're poor, at least your house should be clean. And I came from a humble family background. Also, I used to be one of those kids. My whole family used to live in the slum area. And I was one of the kids that would go around and get a can and try to pretend it was a ball, And I just thought, I don't know, more than 30 years, there are still kids who still do the same stuff I did. Like with all this progress in the economy and everything else that we talk about in our country, we still stuck with this. And that thought kind of got me off track with my walk. This whole journey that I elaborated, it was just less than 5 minutes, when it actually happened. And then I thought, what? The coffee could wait because I have no appointment anyway. It's like I am so busy. I wasn't even busy. So I walked to the district bureau. And I went in and I said, hi, can I talk to whichever department that is responsible for the garbage? And then he said, sanitary, 2 doors down. And I said, okay. So I went there. There was no one there. Obviously, I was in the right place because there's so many bins in front and the brooms. And someone came to talk to me and I said, oh, I'm here to talk about the pile of trash in the street 20. And he's like, okay. So he dragged me in to talk to the staff. And then everyone was looking at me and they said, who are you? And I said, I live in that street. I just came to talk to you guys about the pile of trash that was like accumulated in that street. And the kids now are playing, which is wrong. Like, when is your schedule for pickup?
When do you clean
and then
up?
he looked at me and they said, who are you, a journalist? And I said, no, not at all. I am just a concerned citizen. I just think it should be clean, don't you think? Kids are on holidays now and they should have a clear land to play, not that. And then he's like, okay. And he was like, whatever. And I said, so when are you going to pick it up? Seriously. Like, I haven't.
You're a dog with a bone. You don't let things.
And then he's like, okay, fine. We're going this afternoon. Our schedule is that. Okay, cool. And I said, what do we have to do as household consumers to, help you guys do your job? And he said, sort your waste. Can you sort your waste? Chris, I never knew what it meant. I was in the world where consumerism was taking lead, like I was traveling around the world and, I was in oil and gas, for crying out loud. Like, plastic waste is the last thing I think about.
You make plastic waste.
Like, I support the petrochemical industry.
Yeah.
We're best friends. And I thought, what are they talking about? Sort your waste. And then I said, what do you do with sorted waste? Like, I don't understand this conversation. And he's like, what are you doing this afternoon? And I said, I'm pretty busy, but I can be wherever you need me to be. And he's like, why do you come here this afternoon? And we're going to have a tour around our neighborhood in the truck. So at 1:00, I was there. They got me a coconut juice and they put me in the big 5-ton garbage truck and drove around my district, my whole district. And then they started to explain to me, like, you see, when you don't sort waste, this is the shit we have to deal with. And it's so difficult to, all this sort of stuff. And then we went to the shopping malls. We went to the fresh markets. We went to small streets, and all places around the city in my district, which is almost a CBD area. And that was very eye-opening to me. And I thanked them for the coconut juice. And then they asked me again, like, seriously, you're not a journalist? And I said, I'm not a journalist. And then he asked me what I did for work. And I said, I have no job, which I did not lie. I didn't have any job. And I said, but I do teach English at this temple. And he's like, oh, I know that temple. And I said, yeah, I teach there every weekend in case your kids want to learn English. I am there. And he's like, good for you. And then we parted ways. And I still have the photo from my trip with them because they wanted to take a photo. And I don't think they still believe that I wasn't a journalist,
They thought you were undercover.
Yeah, like I did, but I didn't film anything. All I did was like just asking questions. And that was an experience where I thought, how can sort your waste be, even useful to anyone? Like, it's so simple for us to say it. And why on earth don't we do it? And then I talked to some of my friends and I said, this is a very strange experience for me, And they were like, yeah. And suddenly, one morning over coffee, my country has like this daily newspaper. We still read newspaper. And on the headline, front page, the pollution control department said, Thai people produce 1.14 kilograms of waste per day, which if we line up could be equal to I don't know how many rounds of traveling to the moon. And then I read it and I looked around and I said, you guys understand what this headline says? And they were like, yeah. And I said, you think it's a lot? What, like 1 kilogram is not a lot? Like, are we supposed to like reduce this or acknowledge this number, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, what's the baseline, right?
Yeah, and as a consumer, like if you tell my mom, she's 72, Mom, you produce 1.14 kilograms of waste, she's gonna look at me and it goes, so what do you want me to do? Is that a lot or what? And that was the exact same reaction that I got. And I say, someone needs to fix this lack of, awareness of what needs to change. And this number, God knows what it means. And that was it. And I think that's how I, talked to my co-founder, Mr. Dome. And I said, you always wanted to do something, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, what I can put on the table is my background on maths, a little bit on, optimization. I mean, if I could reduce the cost of oil and gas operation, I could somehow replicate that and reduce the waste. How hard could it be? Come on. And Dom said to me, okay, what are we doing? And I said, I don't know, but it has to be something to do with waste data. And he's like, fine, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm in.
Because I know that your partner, Dome, he's an architect, right?
Yeah, by background. And he always wanted to do something about the social cost also.
But he's not a data person.
No, he's an architect. He makes things beautiful.
He's a creative sort.
Yeah. And he makes everything beautiful about GPP. And I said, so we're good? And he's like, what are we selling? And I said, I don't know yet, but we have to figure out as we go along. And he's like, okay. And he said, one issue, we don't have any money. And I said, that's fair. So I bootstrapped the whole operation. I said, that's okay. There must be a reason why I work so hard and gain some money from oil and gas. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is what it's for.
This is your contribution.
I used to spend money on perfume and travels and fine dining. Forget that, man. Okay, maybe this is the good spending. So I talked to my husband and I said, okay, we're gonna kind of do this now. And we both talked about, how much we could afford to maybe lose. So we did that, and Dome and I, worked our way up with our team members who are as crazy as us, I think. They were developers, they could get a job anywhere. And some of them are architects, which I turned to be data analysts for the time being. And I think everything else just becomes history. Because, as I told Dome, I wanted to give back the land to kids to play. So if we don't reduce waste, if we don't do anything to reduce our landfilling or burning, our next generation will not have any clean land to live in. Forget about playing. They cannot have clean air or clean piece of land to settle down. And that's not what we want to do. So, and apparently they also believed in that.
So you're also a very compelling marketeer then.
Yeah, to my team.
So you just marketed to them and say, yes, we're joining you on your crusade.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
So it has been 6 years.
Yeah, this is our year 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And from the very beginning until now, I know yours is an app, right? It's an application.
It's a software platform. We emerged from the app to the platform, integrated platform now. So we have hardware that is plugged into our software that automates all the waste data collection. Because we don't like to key in and do laborious work. So, but if you guys still choose to do so, we have a version that allows you to key in as you wish or do it through Excel, etc. But yeah, so we integrate both hardware and software into one.
And this is to get the people, regular people like us, right? Consumers.
Organizations mostly.
Organizations. So does it deal with normal everyday people?
Not quite, because the way we see this is we do it by 80-20 rule. So most of the waste is generated by large production sites, right? We only generate when we consume. So we want to address that pile of trash first. If they can reduce that, then we will reduce ours. However, over time, GPP has the opportunity to work with both ends now. So we started to pilot with Bangkok Metropolitan Administration and in Chiang Mai these municipalities started to use our platform to drill down the household level and community levels to start recording their waste so that they can use this data to understand the density of the waste by geography, as well as try to find ways to communicate to those more efficiently. Because you cannot generalize that this community will do the same thing if you communicate the same thing with, in comparison to the community. And waste segregation is one. Data is the polluter pays principle. It started to come to Thailand. And I think this data is the backbone of, how the government could start thinking how to implement this now. How can I charge you if I don't know how much waste you produce? How can I optimize my logistics routing to collect your waste if I don't know how much waste you have? Right. So this is becoming more and more touching the households and end consumers like us. But our primary goal was always reduce the waste where it was most first.
So in your case, are you talking about working with people who create the waste most, which is in that?
I create too, Krista. I create as well.
Like corporations and bigger companies and all those. Are there one or two success stories that you can share with us?
The way I define success is, I think the common way would be increase the recycling rate and reduce waste generation, right? So we have quite a good track record for our clients that way. The maximum that we could reduce at the time in terms of cost reduction would be 55% cost reduction for a company. Like if you sum up all the costs related to their waste management activities, after working with us for 1 year, they reduced by 55% by optimizing the entire operation. We do that through, this is where my oil and gas starts to play. I adopted the Kaizen, which is the concept of waste reduction from the Japanese work culture. We implemented that to reduce production loss and financial loopholes in the operation at the time when I worked. But then I applied this to understand the work process to reduce the waste inside, which is what Kaizen is all about. I just applied it to the physical garbage rather than other waste. But I think the other success story would be the engagement. I think one thing that I worked on personally, because we have a team and we allocated the projects accordingly, it was one of the biggest real estate companies in Thailand. And at the time we were nobody. And they gave us a chance. And we worked with their entire facility team, including maids. We rolled out the posters for them and we talked to the maids regularly. And during that year, we started to see a lot of paper waste. In 1 month, sometime we saw like almost 5 tons of paper. Because it's a lot, by the way, it's a lot. 5 tons of paper from an office.
Could you fill the entire room? Could you fill the entire room?
Yeah, or more. Paper.
Yeah.
So, and then I started to talk to the maid and I said, this is a lot of paper. And she's like, yeah, these guys don't care about trees. You see, like the way we see things it's very astonishing. And then I talked to the head of the facility team and he's like, what do you recommend we do? And I said, we need to figure out what actually happened in your building now. And then we digged into deep dive into the data. We found that it was actually A4 paper. And then I said, okay, so can you tell me how you deal with A4 paper? Like how many printers do you have? And then she said, each floor has about 3 printers. And I said, okay, who fills up the paper? And it's like, no, the staff does it by themselves. And I said, how can the staff get a hold of your paper reams? Oh, each floor has a stock of A4 paper reams, and then they can go in and do that. And I said, now we know. And then it was a small thing that actually turned into a huge expense to the company. And I said, first of all, we're going to have to stop this free serving
Free
open
flow
bar,
of paper.
like open bar of A4 paper. And then we started to log the behavior. And then we started to keep track of the reduction of, taking out the inventory. And then we started to see a decline of paper waste. And we turn this into recycled paper and bring it back to the office. The star of the show on this one is the maid, because she started to give us the insight. And I think that was satisfactory for me, because we always think that the people who will contribute to the change or the transformation in the organization has to be the big guys.
Yeah. The CEO,
but actually, right? Yeah, like you need to have policy and top-down stuff. I've lived with that for a long time. But I think those who are on our day-to-day operation contribute so much to the solution. And I've seen it many times in my previous life as a management consultant, as well as, in my current role of GEPP Sa-Ard. And, these maids are so aware of the transformation that we're trying to accomplish here for the organization. And they were so collaborative, and they tried to understand the math with me. The most amazing part is I had to look at the dashboard with them and say, you see the curve? Like every month it goes down with this, and then I click and then it drew down to 5 different types of paper. And they try to walk through with me, like mentally, I don't think they have seen graphs anywhere before. And they were like, oh yeah. And I said, you see it goes upward? Like it goes upward like this. And they were like, yeah. And then they started to look at each other and like, oh, is that floor? And is that department? And all of a sudden said, we don't want this to be like this. We want this to go down, like downward. And they're like, I see. Okay. And I think them trying to learn our dashboard was an amazing experience for me, because if I try to explain a dashboard to an engineer, yeah, that's one thing. I don't think they need an explanation. But sitting down with the mates and get them to understand the graphs was very fulfilling for me. And they were very nice, to learn and listen. Because they are the one recording, Every day they have to record.
But I find this very fascinating too, because not only are you opening up your dashboard for them to see, but you're also allowing them to relate the work that they do to the trash that each department is generating, right? And then they can see physically the trash, but you can also see it in a form that is in the data, like the graph. And so I guess it kind of gives them like, okay, this is the amount. Like you said, right, previously, what is 1.14 kilo of trash? Like, how do you know?
And it's amazing, because they are the one recording all this data. And I said, every day that you put in, this is what it turns out to be. And then I jokingly said with them, I said, unless you over-record it, which I doubt. And they were like, no, we measure it to the T. You see, like they're really into this experience with us. And I think that was a very good project for me. I went there every day to, just talk to these guys in the garbage room. Every building has a garbage room. In the past, that's where you found me. If anyone tried to look for me, I would be in one of the clients' garbage room. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
I like how you talked about that. First, using your past experience as a management consultant, using your experience in oil and gas as well as the other company, PTEPP, right? To bring together what you've learned into now your own business, your own, your role, and trying to help people understand data. And I think that you're a bit of a data geek, right?
Well, we have to talk to a lot of engineers. And they're not going to understand anything unless you have numbers to it and logic. But you have to have these two things to convince the engineers to change their behavior.
Just now you were saying something about your growing up years, right? You say you also grew up in the slum area. But how did Mayuree grow up to be someone who is
Can help others?
yeah, someone who can help others, with such a big heart?
When I lived in the ghetto area, I remember I was 13. And just to give you a picture of what kind of slum I lived in, they were selling drugs, the amphetamine. Some of my friends were drug addicts by the age, and some of my girlfriends got knocked up at the age of 14. And every night I would not be allowed to leave the house because my mom would say, "No, you stay inside." And I remember one night I was asked to throw away the garbage. If you connect the dot, I was always dealing something like
garbage
related in my life. And I had to throw the garbage at the top near the main road because my house was the second to the last in the street. So it was a long walk. And as I finished, I turned back into the street and I tried to, and I was just coming home on a walk. And there was this fresh air. It was at nighttime. The sky was really clear. And I looked at the sky and I was like, oh, good breeze. And I just took a stroll at that time. It was like maybe 8 p.m. or something. I remember it clearly because it was the night that I thought, damn, I really want to get out of this ghetto. And I told myself, what can I do to get our family out of this ghetto so that I don't have to see my friends knocked up at the age of 14, so I can play with them again, or seeing my neighbors, getting crazy with the, I don't know, whatever drugs that he was using, and try to stab everybody in the street. And that was the night that I said to myself, I need to get out of there. I don't know how yet, but I need to get out of there. And I'm lucky because my mom is such a hardworking person. And because she is uneducated herself, so she thought the best thing that she could do is to give us education. So she worked so hard and tried to get me into university. And she asked me, because she's illiterate, obviously, and then she said, you can choose whatever university you want. All I ask is that you finish it. And you can choose whatever major you want, because I have no idea what you would study anyway. But, just finish the degree and get a job. And I said, sure. And that's exactly what I did. I finished it 1 year earlier because I didn't want to burn my mom's money. I tried to load up the maximum credits every semester so that mom doesn't have to pay for my transportation and lunches at the school. And I tried to get a job the first time. And without realizing, my sister bought me a book. It was a list of all of the scholarships overseas. And I read that book because we know that my family couldn't support me to go anywhere. So I thought, yeah, I'll just apply. What could happen, seriously. I major in French, by the way. I am an art student. Yeah. Have nothing to do with engineering. Have nothing to do with calculations. I speak French, and I spoke better than I do now. And so I tried to get a job at the same time, and I, walked to Alliance Française, which is a network for French liaison. And I walked in there with my resume and a photo. In those years when we wanted the job, we have to do walk
physical.
In, right?
Yeah, physical part.
And with your one-page resume and a photo this size, blue background, I still have copies of that. And every day I would have a folder of 10 resume printed in black and white with my photo, my ID, my house registration, and sometimes, some other books that I would read on the bus. And I walked into Alliance Française and said, I'm here about the scholarship. And they looked at me like, what scholarship? And I said, it's in this book. And I showed him the book that my sister was in this page. And I said, oh, that scholarship. Okay, so And I said, what do I have to do? And he's like, you have a motivation letter? Yes. A resume? Yes. A photo and everything. So I gave him everything that he needed. And he's like, thanks very much, mademoiselle. I'll let you know. And I said, sure. I never heard from them. And then I got a job as a secretary. And then I went to work. My first job was on the 5th of January. And then late at night, I got a call, and it was another job that I applied to. And I was like, I don't care now. I have a job, period. I don't want to be unemployed. And time flies, like the whole year went by. And it so happened that my boss at the time was a workaholic also. So I would stay so late in the office, like midnight. And I had nothing to do. So I went on the net and checked my personal emails. And then I found the letter that was written to me from the university in France 1 year ago, saying that they got my application from Alliance Française and they wanted to ask me if I wanted to study this master. And I read it, and it was all in French. And it was almost midnight. And I read and said, wait, I got a scholarship? Wait, it's in French. And I was like, what is happening? So I printed the letter. I ran to my good friend who also speaks French, Ed. I said, Ed, can you read this and tell me what you understood? And he looked at me, he was a lawyer, and he said, dude, it looks like whatever you apply, you got it. We spent 3 hours that night writing the most apologetic email that you can ever imagine about my clumsiness, the fact that I didn't check this email inbox anymore, and I thought I was already gone on the list and all that sort of stuff. And yet I'm still interested in pursuing this scholarship, totally in French. And they soon replied, because it was the daytime for them. So they replied almost immediately, and they said, oh, good, can you go and take GMAT test then? And then I had to tell my boss that, long story short, I got the scholarship. At that year, I was the only one who got that scholarship from Thailand. It was on the website from the European Commission. And I told my mom, and she's like, no, you're not going. Why? You're the youngest daughter of our Chinese family. You're not going. Like, how can you go?
How many siblings do you have? Since you're the youngest daughter. Okay.
And it's like, nope, you're not going. You have a somewhat okay job. Everything is going really well. And I said, no, Mom, you don't understand. In the country, I'm the only one who got this. We don't have to pay for anything. We don't have to do any job that we don't want to, because there's no commitment to this. It's from the European Commission that sponsor all of this. I will be there for 2 years, and maybe I'll get a cooler job. And she's like, how can you live alone there? You never left the house and all that sort of stuff. I said, Mom, I speak French.
Well, a point that she forgot, right? In all the...
And she's like, I don't care. I went anyway. They sent me a one-way ticket, and I went there. And I spent my time doing the master. I wanted to finish the master's degree so that I could get a better job and earn more money for my family. And I came back, no job, because there was the black swan phenomenon. You remember? It was that year. No job in France, no job anywhere. And apparently at the time, speaking French was not a bonus. Nobody needed anyone who can speak French. And so I Googled for the job. Literally, I Google on the tab of Google. I said, so my master's degree is corporate communications and change management. So So I just search like change management, comma, job vacancy, comma, Bangkok, something like that during my Christmas break. And this Michael Page vacancy came out. We're looking for a Thai national who can do change management in organization whatsoever, blah, blah, blah. And send us a resume whatsoever. I was so ready to send a resume by then, as you could imagine. And it took me literally less than 2 minutes to do all that. And then I got a call from a Western guy. And then he said, first question, do you speak Thai? And I said, yes, it's on my resume that I'm a Thai national, but I understand sometimes. Huh? I speak and write Thai really well. It's my mother tongue. And he's like, good. Okay, I'll send you out for an interview immediately. And I said, I don't want to pressure you, but I'm only in Thailand for just a week because this is my Christmas break. I'm usually in France. And he's like, oh, good. So I had a job interview and then I got it. And it was like 10 times more money than I was working for as a secretary, And I signed a contract when I was in Paris and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going home. I didn't have to think a whole lot of stuff. And I just checked out my apartment, obviously broke up with whoever I was with at the time and came home. And, because this job was very demanding of my life, I think the perks was, it was a good salary and that's how I could save money. And when I started to think about it, I always wanted to get out, which I did. And my family got out of that ghetto also. And I think that through my journey that I just told you about, I had a lot of help. I had a really good friend who was crazy enough with me to stay from midnight to 3 a.m. for me. And we kind of drove. If I didn't have him, we would not have understood that I got the scholarship that changed my life. And my boss was, very supportive. He wrote me a check of 500,000. I left the company. He gave me a check and he wrote me a note and he said, my nickname is Ma'am. So he went, dear Ma'am, we will miss you here. Here's our pocket money that I hope could provide some of comfort when you're there in France. I heard the dormitory sucks in Europe. And you may have to share toilets with boys, which something you have never done, but you're going to have to learn. And call me if you need more money to get comfortable. But, just enjoy your study there and come back, please. And, a lot of people...
What a wonderful boss you had.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I had this job offer that paid, at the time, it was 1,200 ringgits, give or take. It was my first job. And I was out for a job that earned more. And I kind of turned that down because I was already with this job. And I was like, I'm not going to change. I just got here. I'm not going to look anymore. I want to do this well. And so, when I look back, I could not have pulled this off by myself. And I talked to my boss and I said, David, you really didn't have to. The scholarship people will give me the money and pay for my studies. And he's like, I know. As I said, this is supposed to be like for your comfort. And I said, okay, thank you. And he looked at me and he said, I know one day you will do the same. And that's why I do this.
So
that's what you asked me.
Yeah.
Because I got so much from people that I never know. And it's my time to do that now. And I think that this is the privilege to be able to help people, you know? So that's why I do what I do. And every day I try to be helpful. Because there are a lot of people in the background that got me here. I see you have tears in your eyes. What's wrong with that? Just for the sake of the audience, Krista is crying.
Because I feel like there's such a beautiful, it's like such a nice way of coming back, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you started off with doing what you did. Let's put it this way: you had a great job overseas, right? But you could actually not even look at that and say, I want to come back to Thailand and do what I want to do. Whatever the heck, right? And then after that, you came back. You spent, 3.5 years with your national petroleum company, right? But then you left that too. And then after that, you decided to, without a job, you were just trying to figure out. But in the meantime, you decided to do all these things for the kids in the slum. And it was also the kids in the slum that made you get into a garbage truck. And I still remember you told me this, and I remember this right. You were wearing some white pants, white jeans, something. White
shirts, yeah. I still have the photo.
Yeah, and I was thinking wow, you either have to be crazy or you're like you just get into a garbage truck.
I'm just a concerned citizen. So concerned, I can't sit on it.
I find it fascinating, and to me, honestly, when I have these conversations with my guests, I never really know where they're going to take me. I just follow the conversation, and I think that I had to ask you certain questions because they just sounded so intriguing. I didn't know that you grew up in the slums either until we had this recording. But I also felt that I had to ask you, how does someone from the slums get out of the slums and going overseas?
Education.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, but you had to have a determination. It's not just education. Every kid.
I could have married a drug lord in my community for crying out loud and, be so rich and maybe in the most wanted woman. I don't know.
On the Interpol list, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I think that we can only connect the dots when we look back.
Yeah.
And think of the things the people who have helped. And I like how you summed it up nicely that there are people who didn't have to help you. You could have just be on your way and did what you did, but that person chose to help you. And I thought that's very beautiful. That's a very beautiful thing.
The world is not that desperate of good people.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I teared. I was saying, wow, that's such a beautiful story. I didn't expect that coming up from Mayuree. I thought we were going to talk about
I'm very
trash.
insensitive as a person.
trash and trash collection and data points and, telling people how they could recycle, reuse, repurpose better, right? So things like that. But that is such a beautiful story that you told there. And I hope people who listen to this will think that, wow, if they could be that person for other people.
It's a privilege. Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do things for other people.
Yeah. So, yeah, wonderful story. I love that story. Oh my God, so excited. So excited for your story. But now that we talked about that, right? So, did we answer that question of what is your personal purpose of building GEPP?
To return the clean air and clean land for the kids to live.
So we did, right? So we actually did, in a kind of roundabout way, we came back to that.
Yeah.
That's your purpose. And of course, for your personal purposes also, I guess, to give back in a way.
Yeah, I think I always tell Dome and my team that if we do our job right, that means to some extent we will lose our jobs. Because that means there's no trash to deal with anymore.
Yeah. But that's a good thing because you have brains, you can think of a new thing to start again.
My team is very smart. They're highly energetic and crazy and, caring. So I owe it to them to, drive the company this far. It was just me. It would just be PowerPoint, Excel. But they turned this into something. I have to learn every now and then about my platform because they keep upgrading stuff in the codes, and they took me out of the back end of the codes now because they're like, don't touch this. Go out there, do some, talk to people.
So what is your role right now in your own company?
As a CEO
of the dashboard.
My job as a CEO is a salesperson. So I sell products and services for the company and sell in a way to make revenue, obviously. But the other way is to, I think, two things. One is to sell, and the other is to train my team members to be thinking more about the impact of their work. Developers can get jobs anywhere. I tell them every day, you can get jobs anywhere. I don't know why you're here. I pay less than banks. But now that you are here, by your own will, you can do so much more to make people reduce waste and sort waste and understand the impact on the environment. And they're like, yep. And that's what I do on a regular basis, is to keep my team on edge about why they're here. I think it's important. And I think for now, the challenge for me is to do more of a long-term thinking. As a small team, we help each other solve problems. And I am from an operation background. So when there's a problem, I always jump right in and do it with the team. And now I have to control my urge not to do that so that they can do this in the long term. And it's really challenging. So I have told the team that if you see me do that, please stop me. Please tell me to bugger off and go have tea, coffee, I don't know what. I have other jobs to do, but yeah. So I think my two priorities now is to, secure strong commercial lead for the company and think about what are the features from the clients and put them into our product and services improvement, and also be with the team, like be present for them to grow and do the job that they love to do.
And how do you continue to maintain your energy? Because you still sound like you're a gung-ho.
Sleep. I have to sleep. I require a lot of sleep in my life.
But I also know you're a mom of a toddler, right?
Yes.
Or is it
yes,
no longer a toddler?
A 3-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get much sleep then?
I sleep with him. I can say that with no shame to all mothers out there. Don't stigmatize with the fact that you want to sleep with your child. It's fine. It's great, especially if you're working moms. This is like the bonding time. Like you're true with the child alone and talk about your day, his day. In my case, we talk about silly things, and make up stories, and kind of cute that way. I need a lot of sleep and a lot of coffee and time with my husband. So we try to have family dinner every evening. Like that's the must in the family, where you need to make it home for dinner. No matter how junky the food is.
If it's KFC buckets, right?
We have to be home for it. So yeah that's what we do. And I think having Ben, my son, around gives me clarity. Because I always wanted to do things with the kids, for the kids. And having him unexpectedly, at first it was a hectic sort of nightmare in a way. I had a shock because I'm always working. But then having him also gave me sort of a framework to prioritize. These are the jobs I have to do now, and these are the jobs I have to spend time thinking, and these are the times that I should be with myself and also be with Ben and etc. So I am much better at prioritizing my day, my month, and my weeks. Other than that, it would just all be like a muddle of work in different angles, you know?
So motherhood makes you less of a workaholic.
Motherhood gives me a sense of clarity. I still work as much as I want, but it's clearer now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Weird.
so
Must be the folic acid.
What are 3 key pieces of advice that you would give to someone who's thinking of doing something like you?
First, you need to be clear about your financial stability. I think let's be practical here. You need to be able to serve yourself first in order to help others. You cannot help others if you're not well. Number 2, I think it's a failure and success kind of journey. And one day you might be really happy about something, and the other day you'll be like, oh, why did I do that? So suck it up. If you want to be your own self-employed and have the team, there will always be days that you are let down. So just get over that. And number 3 is ask yourself again, is entrepreneurship is something you want? Because it's hard. It's really hard. I came from a corporate world. My life was not as roller coaster as this. It was always predictable. I was very comfortable. And I didn't have to worry about my team's salary or, their family. And if I closed down the company, would they be okay? What would the clients think of our services? Are we doing stuff that actually make a change? I never had to care about all that. And when you're an entrepreneur, you need to care about all that and more. You have to learn accounting. I'm very good at that, but I'm not very good at marketing. So you need to learn how to do that and at least try to understand that. And I think you need to know how things are done. Not because you will do it by yourself, but you need to know the process by which things get done so that you can contribute your own take on it. And you could actually help the team is very important. However illogical or logical ways that you can contribute. So I think if you're thinking of founding a company, and obviously you will be the founder and therefore a leader, what helps me a lot is the fact that I want to grow the generation of people that I hope will somewhat share the same vision that I do, which is, return the clean land to kids and, do something greater than themselves. And I want to develop the batch after batch of young generations to think outside of their own well-being. So you will have to think about how you want to coach that, because being an entrepreneur to me is not just about you. Yeah. So that would be my take on that. Get ready. If you can do all of those 3 or 4 things that I said, then I guess you're ready to open a company.
Would that be the same advice you tell your 25-year-old self?
Yes. But when I was 25, no one told me. When I was 25, I was in France and trying to finish my master's degree. And I remember I couldn't get an internship because it was the black swan impact on the economy. And I cried my heart out because every night I would apply at least 10 companies for unpaid internships so that I could finish my master's. And my sister, who got me on the phone, and she said, just forget it. Your whole trip was paid for. Like, why do you care? You already won. We don't care you got a master's degree. And I said, no, I want to finish what I started. And I think if I could look back and tell my 25-year-old, I would still say the same thing, which is, finish what you started. But you have to remember why you started in the first place. Being an entrepreneur was not something that I thought, because when in that position, I see stability. Entrepreneurship is nothing about stability. But I think the ups and downs are still valid though. Like, there's a book that I read to my son, Ben, and I recommend it to my team members. It's from Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss, the author. And the book is called
right?
Green Eggs and Ham. We have the whole collection of Dr. Seuss in the house. And one day, my husband was reading this book. It's called You Go Places. Oh, You Go Places. And Ben really likes it. And then one day he asked me to read it. I never listened to what they were doing because their father and son, they were always like being silly. And then I had it to read it to Ben. So I sat down with him and I opened the book and I read. And then as I read, I had tears in my eyes. And I just thought, oh my God, like this is exactly what life is all about. You will come across dark days, like so long, and like many pages, you have a lot of monsters in the black pit hole. And you never know when you're going to get out. And I think that's what I will tell my 25-year-old self, that this is the phase. Like the fact that you couldn't find an internship, you can't land on a job or whatever, that you were failing. It's that 4 pages of that book. And you might be stuck there for some time. And maybe you're in the waiting page, because there's a whole 2 page about waiting itself. And eventually you're going to get out there. And I think that's what I would have told my 25-year-old self, and any person who's 25-year-old also. Because, you're full of energy. When you're 25, you're full of energy. You just graduated. You think you can change the world, and you want to change the world, and you have so much confidence, yet everything is intimidating. And you want to challenge yourself, but you also want to be in your comfort zone. It's so difficult to be a 25-year-old looking for the job. And I think I would definitely first recommend anyone to read this book as adults, as well as learn from the book. The philosophy of that book, it's really spot on.
Thank you. I didn't expect that from you, but interesting that we went to a book. And I like that book that you talk about too, which I found and I think we can learn a lot from children's books. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so finally, if the person listening to this right now and they want to connect with Mayuree or ma'am, where can they find, or where can they connect with you? They can find you.
So I think we have a page. I am the administrator of this page myself, also with my co-founder. Our Facebook page is GEPP Thailand. So you can drop us a chat if you want to ask us something. We always answer. Otherwise, you can drop me an email as mam, M-A-M, @gpp.me.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll also put all the links in the show notes when this episode airs, so that if they miss it, they can still go back and refer to the website where they get everything about you and links to your company, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So thank you, Mayuree. Thank you for telling that story. But one thing I must say this, right? So we have to give a shout out to Dome, right? So Dome, a big shout out to you.
I think you and I owe so much to Dome.
And how I met Dome is also through a leadership program that we were both on. We were both in, and then I found him very interesting, but we didn't have much time to talk during the leadership program because it's fully virtual. But I think when I reached out to him and he so kindly say, "Hey, talk to Mayuree," and I say, "Great, I will talk to him."
Because he was afraid you were going to talk to him. No, he's a great guy, and I could not have asked for a better founder. He appears like a softie, but I think he's a rock without knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, so big shout out to Joe for
Yes, I
connecting
will.
me and Mayuree and for bringing this wonderful story. Because through your story, someone will be inspired to do something. And I think that is also what we are all trying to do here in our own capacities, right? To get someone to take that next step, to get out of the comfort zone and do something for another person. It's not just doing something for ourselves, but do something for another person or your community, or in your case, your country, right? So you're a very patriotic
We're going
type.
to Malaysia, so let's hope we can do something for Malaysia waste situation also.
Yes, please. So thank you so much, Mayuree. Thank you for a wonderful
Thank you,
conversation.
Krista. Thank you, Krista, for having me.
Mayuree's story is unlike any I've encountered. Rising from the slums, she grabs education as her lifeline. But her journey wasn't solo. From the friend who helped craft a life-changing email to the boss who eased her financial burden, Mayuree's path was paved with kindness. Mayuree's unwavering faith in humanity fuels her to pay it forward. Her startup empowers her team, and her software uplifts her community. But her dream is even bigger, creating a safe and clean haven for children trapped in the slums. Mayuree's story demonstrates the power of resilience, kindness, and the ripple effect of a single act. Inspired to create your own positive impact? Volunteer your time, donate to a cause you care about, or simply share Mayuree's story with someone who needs a spark. Remember, even the smallest action can ignite a fire. For returning listeners, your reviews are like gold. They help this podcast reach inspiring individuals like you. Take a moment to leave a rating or review on your podcast app. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Mayuree. I'll see you next Friday for another dose of inspiration. Until then, go out there and make a difference.